While thinking about this over the past week, this particular concept of enlightenment, or this third video in enlightenment, my thoughts keep coming back to the motivation as to why a person would seek after spiritual enlightenment. And in my situation, the process started over 40 years ago. However, I was completely unaware of what the subliminal, subconscious, whatever you want to call it, I was unaware of the reasons why I was going in that direction. It's just that I was motivated from my essence to continue on that path. Whereas somebody like Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, he had something in his mind about enlightenment, and then of course he spent at least a decade or more searching by going into the jungles and talking with multiple gurus and practicing several different methods, and eventually threw in the towel and actually became enlightened. So what are the motivating factors? Because, see, here's the thing. Satan is an enlightened being. And so, obviously, Satan's agenda is different than Jesus' agenda. But both were enlightened. So, you got to question, what agenda are you looking for? And here's the thing. I think, I feel fairly confident in saying that most people are not aware of what their agenda is. I certainly wasn't. I know that from the very beginning, my focus was upon the love of God, the love of my family, the love of Jesus, the love of God, the love of trying to understand things that didn't make sense to me. But other people, and of course, like I said, I wasn't aware of why I was being motivated in that direction. It wasn't somebody else. It wasn't some spiritual thing from some mumbo jumbo silly stuff or whatever. It was me motivating me. It was the essence of me motivating me, not some angels or demonic forces or whatever, because we're all responsible for our own choices that we make, whether they're influenced one way or another. It doesn't matter. It's always, 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 always our essence, our self, that is making the choices that we make. So, what are the motivating factors? That's a good thing to question. Because while you're on your path, I have noticed that it seems to me that I have not that it seems I have noticed, I've noticed, but it seems to me that a lot of people are motivated for self-gain, self-fulfillment, selfishness, if you will. Some are siddhas, I think. Yeah. Some are seeking powers. Some are seeking authority. Because if a person is enlightened, then they have access to rather than saying they have access, they are the desired thing that they're trying to access. They're in touch with that, and they can utilize that. I mean, witchcraft, for instance, is a good a negative example, let's put it that way, of people using a power for reasons that are most likely selfish. And so you have to question yourself, what is motivating you to become enlightened? Again, I'm saying, I'm speculating. I'm doing a lot of speculating here because there's no way to know. Well, from my perspective, there's no way to know. I'm not God. There's no way to know each individual's proclivities for why they are gravitating towards enlightenment, because obviously the proclivities of demons are different than that of saints. And so, and the problem, of course, is the spectrum or the marching progression that one takes. And as you get closer and closer to your enlightened state or whatever, you can look back and go, oh, that's what was happening. And of course, a demon, for instance, they are already over here. It's not like you can just snap your fingers and switch gears and go, I'm going to use hyperbole here. Satan can't snap his fingers and go, you know what? I made a mistake. I'm going to be like Christ and I'm going to change. And as of this point forward, I'm going to be Christ. You can't do that. I mean, if you think you can, you are wrong. You can start the process if you want, but there's a way. I mean, it's not like you can just, it's like saying you're in debt and you've borrowed and borrowed and borrowed and you owe $100,000 and just snap your fingers and go, oh, I just converted that to an asset. Now I have $100,000 in cash. Well, you can do that, but you see how you have to pay off the $100,000 and then you have to earn $100,000. You can't just snap your fingers like that and go from this to that. Spirituality is the same way. You can always change course and change sides and revert and stuff like that, but you have to go. I mean, there's no shortcuts. I mean, it can be fast, but regardless, getting off track here. So my point being is, what is motivating you to become enlightened? And ask yourself that. Is it because you don't really know, but that you feel this urging in you of you're missing something, it's something that you can't live without, you just absolutely have to have it, and not for selfish reasons, but that without it you don't even desire to live anymore. I mean, it's that strong. And look and ask yourself, I mean, and I'm giving you examples for a righteous person that is seeking after enlightenment. And examine your own self. In other words, look back 10 years. Look back 1 year. And ask yourself, what have you been doing? What is it that, what are you, is it selfish, or do you actually enjoy seeing happiness on the face of others when you go out of your way to help them, when you pick up a piece of garbage on the ground because you don't like seeing the park dirty, and you don't pick it up and put it in the garbage and go, oh, those bastards, I hate those people. See, because there's that attitude, and then there's the attitude, oh, a piece of garbage is on the ground. Well, probably somebody threw it there, but I'm not, who knows why it's there. The bottom line is I see it and I'm going to pick it up. And as you go on your walk, you have this happy thought in you that, the park is just a little bit cleaner. It's just, and then the next person that walks here is not going to feel this negative feeling because I've picked it up. See, now that's an unselfish thing that you've done. So analyze everything. I don't care what it is. I mean, it could be at your job, for instance, and you're a fast food person that maybe doesn't get paid very much to do your job. And so you have a attitude of, who gives a damn? I don't get paid very much, so to hell with making the hamburgers correctly or whatever. I'll just do it quickly or what. And but if that same person is you and you're seeking after enlightenment, then you're a selfish individual. Now, you can backtrack and change that and take pride in what you do. And it's like, well, I don't get paid very much, but that's no excuse for not doing a job at my fast food job as if I was getting paid $300 an hour, just like a lawyer or something. Because a lawyer could be getting paid $300 an hour and look at his peers and go, well, they're making $500 an hour. To hell with it, I'm not going to do a very good job. You see what I'm saying? So it's relative across the board. That's just a way to analyze yourself. And then, what kind of a person are you? If you are the person that is derives joy and happiness from making the world a better place for other people and animals, etc., but you don't do it with a self-righteous attitude. You just do it, and that's that. You don't look down your nose at other people because they're not doing what you're doing or working as hard as you're working or whatever. You just do it because the satisfaction of doing it. If that's the kind of person you are, then great. If you're seeking after enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, and when you find it, you're going to be incredibly, I don't want to say the word well off, but miles and miles ahead of the other person that becomes enlightened. Because here's the thing. People think about enlightenment as though it's some super duper special, super awareness, this, that, and everything. They have all these grandiose ideas of what enlightenment is. Don't get me wrong, it's all of that and then some. But nevertheless, it can be boiled down to just the simple fact of realizing from an experiential point of view that reality is illusory. Now here's the problem. Both people can have that enlightened experience that doesn't diminish with age or go away. It's eternal. I mean, like when I say eternal, when you become enlightened, it's not like you're going to be reborn again and not be enlightened. If you decide to be reborn again, that's your prerogative, but you will be enlightened at who knows what age, but it's not like you're going to be unenlightened, and because you, the essence of you, is enlightened. It isn't the physical body, because see, here's the thing. The physical body, they say, has 5 senses, and then they say, well, from a different point of view, it has even more senses than that. It doesn't matter because the body is incapable of experiencing enlightenment. The senses do not, I mean, I hope I'm not confusing you, but for billions and billions of years, you, meaning you were a butterfly at one time or whatever, and you continue through the process up until you're at the top of the food chain, spiritually speaking, as a human being. And for billions of years, everything has pointed towards solidifying that this reality is real. Your senses are designed to experience this reality. Your senses are designed to, from a spiritual standpoint, trick you into believing that this reality is real. And when you are convinced this reality is real, you make decisions. But those decisions are coming from the essence of what you are. So as an animal, you might be greedy, or you might kill, or whatever. Because think about it, I've said this before. Every day you got to drink water, and every day you have to eat something, or the temple of your spirit will perish, it'll die. So, I mean, if I was being gross, a gross way of looking at it is like taking a cute little animal and going, "Hi, little animal," and choking it and peeling off its head and putting it on a spit and putting it on the fire and then eating it. Well, how is that any different than eating a hamburger and taking your napkin and going, "Oh, I'm so suave and proper and everything else," and put your napkin under your chin? And how is that different than the person that rips the head off the cute little critter and puts it on a spit and eats it? Because there's no different. The human body is an animal that must survive, or it will die. So to become enlightened, you have to kill things, or you have to hire people to kill things for you. Now, you can say you're a vegan or this or that or whatever, but who cares? So you kill plants. Hi, little plant. Rah. That's just the way this reality is. So your senses have developed for billions of years, and they've carried from animal to animal and plant and everything else to convince you that this reality is real, that this reality is solid. Your senses are incapable of becoming enlightened. A human being is incapable of becoming enlightened. When a person is enlightened, it isn't the temple, it isn't the human body, it is the essence. And so when the body dies, it has no effect upon the essence. If the essence decides to be reborn in another human being, it takes that enlightenment with them. Now, you may not remember in the next life that you drove a Ford half-ton pickup truck or something, but you're going to remember the important things, which is, are you a loving individual? Do you have issues with greed? Do you have spiritual proclivities to become one with God? These things follow you because they are you. It's the choices you make that define what you are. And so, yeah, and if I'm saying, or let's not say if, since I'm saying the human body cannot become enlightened, then how do you become enlightened? Well, through it's like Jesus talks about, they knock on the door and says, well, God gives unto everyone that asks, but they have to ask in faith and confidence and knowing, etc., etc., etc. Okay, well, God allowed Satan to become enlightened because Satan asked. So you're in the same boat. You have to ask. You can't get there on your own. You're incapable. It can't happen. And if you're so brainwashed by these fake teachers of spirituality that teach you there's no such thing as God or this or that or whatever, then you're never going to become enlightened because you're never going to ask. So you can be a semi-proud, arrogant, satanic, demonic, or you can be loving of God or whatever. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is you have to have the faith to ask and continue asking for possibly decades or lifetimes. And eventually you can become enlightened. Now, how does that happen? Well, it's different with everyone because it's like if you think about it's like chemical reactions. By the way, I never took chemistry in school, so I'm like totally ignorant about chemistry. But from my fire experience, I understand certain things about it. So different elements react differently with acids or this or that or whatever. And depends on what the starting thing is, it reacts differently with the exact same chemical. For instance, you can put acid on a hand and it will boil or destroy you, but if you put acid on a piece of glass, it may not, unless it's a different kind of glass. So your essence, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, is a very complex, dynamic makeup of a whole lot of things. And what would serve to enlighten one person would have no effect upon another person. Does that make sense? So there's absolutely no way to identify a generic way to become enlightened. If there were, then we'd have billions of enlightened people on the planet right now. But there isn't. There is no generic. This is why you read history, not history, but you read spiritual books and stuff like that, written thousands of years ago or whatever. And they always talk about a student that is learning under the tutelage of a spiritual guru that's enlightened. And it's a one-on-one experience for possibly an entire lifetime, but certainly for a very long time, because it's this question and answer, question and answer, question and answer, because the guru is constantly trying to find out what the seeker is, who he is, she is, what they are. And I'm telling you from my own personal point of view, okay? I'm telling you I'm aware, okay? You might roll your eyes, whatever. I don't care. But I'm telling you from my point of view, 99.999 whatever percent of people that are on the spiritual path, if I were to tell the truth and if I were to speak to them and if I were to try to understand who they are and try to get to know them, eventually I would start backtracking and going, you know what, that person belongs in a Christian church or in a Buddhist temple, or they belong over here, they belong over there. But I don't have anything to offer them because they either need decades of time before I'm going to talk to them that would help them, or maybe they require multiple lifetimes before. Okay, so my wife says this is a horrible way to teach because it's so arrogant, it's unbelievable. That's what she says about me, but luckily she loves me. But I'm going to use that analogy anyways. So it's like you're in the second or third grade and you really want to understand mathematics, and I happen to be a professor at a university teaching the highest level of mathematics there is, and the 7 or 8 year old comes to me. It's like, no, no. Could I teach you? Yeah, I could, but I don't want to. It's too difficult to teach you because you need 10, 15 years of teaching from this other source before you can come to me and so that I could teach you. Because first off, it's damned hard for the professor to teach the 7-year-old kid. It's damned hard for the what's the word I'm looking for? Condescend. Uh, Condescending is not a negative connotation. I mean, it's used in a negative connotation all the time, but it isn't. You can look at condescension as how, I was going to say how God communicates with human beings from time to time. I was going to say that, but I think that's a misnomer. I don't, as I think about it, I don't know of any examples of God condescending. I do know that people say that that happens. I'm off on a tangent here. I do know that people say that, but I think they're referring to angelic beings or whatever. Me personally, I don't know of any examples, and I've read all the Bibles and books and everything else, and people attribute things to God when it isn't God. It may be their own Holy Spirit, or it might be an angelic figure or demonic or whatever the case may be, but it isn't the creator God, Brahma, Vishnu, whatever you want to call it. It isn't that individual condescending. That individual will and can contact you when you are at the end of the road. You're working on your PhD of spirituality, and I'm saying that as an analogy, not for real, but you're working on that. Yes, you can have one-on-one with God, and it's not a condescending communication. What it is your essence is rising to the occasion to become one with God in a spiritual standpoint. And when you have raised your level of understanding, you can feel the love of God, and you can, I'm saying feel because, as I said, your physical body is incapable of experiencing enlightenment, but the essence of your feel is in communication with God. And when you come back to this physical reality, all you can express is it's love. It's the pure nature of love. It Love is a word that defines God, not God defining love. And so, in other words, the concept of love wouldn't even exist if there was no way to compare it to God. Off on a tangent again. I do that a lot. Anyways, so there's the dark side of enlightenment and there's the light side of enlightenment. Both require faith to ask and to realize you can't do it on your own. And so what is it going to take for you to become enlightened? As I said, there's no generic answers, but I would say always, not almost always, but I would say always. The individual that becomes truly enlightened, it takes place in an extreme quietness of some people use that analogy in spiritual samadhi. It's similar, but not it's not that, but it's similar. It requires a very quiet place. And I don't necessarily mean quiet, but I mean quiet in that the distractions are not there. I don't think it's possible. Well, it just occurred to me in this Kali Yuga, why are people so unenlightened? Why is it so rare? Well, in this Kali Yuga, we have cell phones and TV and everything blaring at us and people talking. And instead of 10 million people on the planet, there's several billion people on the planet. And the distraction, the constant, and I don't mean distraction in a negative connotation either, because distraction is a useful thing to survive, but you can't become enlightened in that environment of busyness. You have to be in a place where, after decades of spiritual searching, you absolutely have to be in a place where, and when I say place, a mental place as well as a physical place of contemplative ability to let your mind wander. In other words, they talk about chanting, they talk about working on your chakra meditation. They talk about meditation, for instance. None of those things are going to work for you because you're in control of it. Does that make sense? So when you're meditating, you're in control. You're forcing the human body to say a chant. You're forcing the human body to think about something. You're forcing the body to, for instance, like you're in samadhi or whatever. You're forcing your mind to be vacant, because if you don't force it, just stuff, it's always there. They call it monkey mind or monkey brain or whatever. So you're in control of things. You can't be in control of things if you ever expect to become enlightened. You cannot be in control. Not your essence, not your heart, not your soul, not your physical body, not this physical world, not demonic forces, nothing. You have. So it just occurred to me. They talk about surrender, but surrendering in such a way that it's not surrendering. I don't know how to put it in words, but you have to be in a physical and spiritual location where there's no time restraints. Oh, by golly, I got to be here in an hour or this, that. You have to be able to not have any worries in the world. Like, think about Buddha sitting under a tree. Nobody was coming to rescue him. He was by himself. He anticipated death because he was just going to sit there till hell froze over, so to say, and he was just going to just be there until he died. And then, of course, he became enlightened. But he had no distractions incoming. The thought of, oh, I have to eat something or I'm going to die was even thrown out. I'm going to die. I don't give a damn. You see what I'm saying? Now, most people, I would say, that were in that situation nowadays, they would die because they didn't prepare themselves adequately enough to become enlightened. So it's the willpower of the individual that hasn't given up yet. They haven't surrendered. They're, oh, I'm going to become enlightened or I'm going to die. That's a wrong attitude. But you have to be able to have this thought of asking God, asking the Creator to open the door to enlightenment, but at the same time, don't be in control. You're just doing nothing. And for me, now I'm not demonic, so for me, my heart and soul would be overflowing with love, with anticipation of nothing but just experiencing nothingness, allowing your essence that's not of the physical body, your spirit, to just expand outside, to be able to start incorporating other things, and then eventually, because you're there wanting enlightenment, but not anticipating enlightenment. And when you are release control, then it's possible you can become enlightened. It is possible that the experience, I call it an experience, and many people say it's not an experience. Of course, the people that are saying it's not an experience are not enlightened. They'll say they are, but they're not. They're liars, or they're delusional, whatever they are. But enlightenment can, I will reduce it to the word experience, but in a different way. So for instance, you can say, well, I experience reality, I experience being a human being, and I'm experiencing whatever it is, I'm experiencing that, okay? So that's defining the word experience. So I can reduce enlightenment to the same thing. I'm experiencing all experiences as being nothingness and transcending all experiences. But that's an experience. But it's enlightenment. But it isn't an experience. I get that too. But nevertheless, there's no other definition that I'm aware of. I mean, of course, you can use the word Advaita. You can use the word Nirvana. You can use all these words, but so what? What are they? I mean, you eventually have to give it some sort of a meaning. You can't just say Advaita. You can't just say, well, it's Nirvana. Okay, well, what the hell is Nirvana? Well, you can look up it in the dictionary and say, well, it's the nothingness or whatever. But what is nothingness? I mean, you have to keep saying what, because these are just dumbass words that created by somebody in India 2,000-3,000 years ago. So what? So what? I mean, they're just words. People think you have to learn Sanskrit or what. You don't have to learn anything. That's all bullshit. Because the reality is, it's the essence of you. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you call it. Anyways, I'm off on a tangent. Happy Thanksgiving to those that celebrate Thanksgiving. Today is Thanksgiving in the United States. And so I got to cut this video short. Thank you very much for watching. It seems like this isn't helping you understand enlightenment anymore. It seems like to me I'm just rambling, and I apologize. Honestly, I don't know what else or how else to define it. But I'll continue to think about it and see what I can come up with next time. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.